The Supreme Court has reserved its verdict in the case that challenged the constitutional validity of the Waqf Amendment Act of 2025. But what preceded it was intensive arguments between the best legal minds in our country. So don't worry if you missed it, because here I am, your advocate friend, filling you in with everything that mattered. First things first, let's understand what is Waqf. Waqf is basically a Muslim charitable trust. It's a property or an asset that you give away for religious or charitable purposes. So it can be used to build a madrasa where education is imparted, or it can be used to build a hospital where Muslims can be treated. But the important thing is it is exclusive to Muslims, and secondly, it is permanent. So once a waqf, always a waqf. So let me quickly tell you the story so far. These lands and assets were actually managed by the Waqf Boards. These boards were established by the 1995 Act. The 1995 Act was working just fine, but it went under major amendment in 2013. Now the 2013 amendment is such a pain point for the present government. Why, you ask? Because according to the government data, it has received so many complaints of false claims by the Waqf Board over the property of private individuals, even government properties. The gravity of the situation can be understood by the fact that there is a 116% rise in the land owned by the Waqf Board according to the government statistic from 2013 to 2025. And mind you, this rise was not even witnessed by the Indian population during the Mughal Raj. So it is quite huge. Also, the Waqf Board is now the third largest owner of land in India. As a solution, the present government introduced the Waqf Amendment Act of 2025, aka Umeed. Yes, it's the official name. You can Google it. Now, as soon as this new act came into being, it was challenged before the Honorable Supreme Court of India for being unconstitutional and infringing the fundamental right to freedom of religion, which are secured under Article 25 to 30 of the Constitution of India. Finally, on 20th May 2025, the court was in session. At the bench, we had the Chief Justice of India, Justice B.R. Gavai, along with Justice A.G. Masih. And we had the petitioners and the respondents. Arguments took place for 3 days continuously for hours at length. And I followed each and every day, every hour of the argument. And here I am bringing you the 5 main points of contention between the parties, the arguments advanced by both the parties, and at the end I will also include my small prediction as to what the Supreme Court judgment is going to look like according to me. First point of contention, that the act is unconstitutional. The petitioners argue that this act is designed to capture the lands of the Muslims and infringes the fundamental right to religion of the Muslims, to which the state argued that they are protected by a doctrine, the doctrine of presumption of constitutionality. Now, what does that mean? See, the Parliament is the supreme authority to make laws, and if it has enacted a law, the Supreme Court is bound to presume that the law is constitutional, because the Parliament is the supreme authority and represents the people of India. And if they have made a law, the Supreme Court is going to presume that it is constitutional until proven otherwise in the courts. So the state argued that the burden of proving that the act is not constitutional is not on them, but the petitioners. Second is mandatory registration. The 2025 Act introduces a new law that if the Waqf Board fails to register a property, it loses all the rights in that property. Now, the petitioners argued that even though registration is compulsory since 1923, the only consequence of non-registration was penalizing the mutawali with 25,000 rupees fine. Now, suddenly increasing it to losing all the rights in the property is unfair. To which the state replied that it has given ample of opportunity since 1923 to get the property registered, and if they have still failed, then the state can increase the penalty. It is within its power. Third, that the state is being a judge in its own case. Suppose there is a property which is disputed by the government as well as the Waqf Board. Now, this dispute will be resolved by the district magistrate. Petitioners argue that the district magistrate is like an agent of the state and therefore will give a decision in the favor of the state. So, it will be biased. To which the state replied that the decision of the DM is appealable to the tribunal, High Court, Supreme Court. So, if there is a biased decision, there are avenues of correction. Fourth is inclusion of non-Muslims into the Waqf Board. Now, the petitioners argue that the Waqf Board is a religious body. So, inclusion of non-Muslims infringes Article 26 of the Constitution, which gives the right to the religious minorities to manage its own affairs. To which the state replied that the Waqf Board, according to it, is a secular body and therefore inclusion of non-Muslims, that too in minority, will not be considered as infringement of fundamental right. Fifth and final point of contention is that now only Muslims can create a Waqf. Not a Hindu, not a Christian, none of these other religions can now create a Waqf. To which the petitioners said that if the 2013 amendment introduced that any person can create a Waqf, why is the state debarring or dissuading the other religions to give property for charity? To which the state replied that they can give donation, they can create a trust, only we are disallowing them from creating a Waqf. And we are empowered to do so because it was a statutory provision that gave the right to create a Waqf to, for example, a Hindu. And now we are taking away that statutory right. It's not a fundamental right. And that's it. This is everything you needed to know. And since the Supreme Court has reserved its verdict, so I am going to make a small little prediction. And I think that the balance is more tilted towards the state rather than the petitioners, at least at this stage of hearing, okay? And what are your thoughts? I would really like to know. So write it down in the comment section below. And please like, share, subscribe if you like the video and like to see more such videos. Also, see you in the next video. Bye.